right, we've just opened this up. Just while we have people flow into the room here, Pete, I've got a question for you. This has been my question of the day. Question of the season is probably more appropriate, and that is pumpkins, yes or no? Is it too early?
Pumpkins, yes or no? Too early? I do not think it's too early.
It is not too early. It is officially fall, so I guess it's not. It's still 80 degrees here, so it's hard for me to be in pumpkin mindset. My wife says it's never too early for pumpkins, so
I agree. I
you're
definitely agree with that.
you're in the
What,
majority.
what
Most people have said that. So, all right. Well, let me kick us off here, and then I'll turn it over. Just 1 second here while I get this ready. All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Insightful Accountants Future Forward Summit. My name is Gary D. Hart, and I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of the Future Forward Summit. I want to say thank you for joining us for session 3, Turnkey Back Office Solutions, how building a toolbox, including Microsoft's Power Platform, Azure, and OpenAI can drive your advisory revenue. I want to say thanks to our speaker, Peter Audenas. I'll have him introduce himself in just a minute after I cover our housekeeping items. So main housekeeping, CPE is offered for this session. Like all sessions, you must be in it 50 minutes, 50 minutes, and you must answer at least 3 of the polling questions. We do have an additional poll question that basically says, do you want to receive the CPE certificate? Click yes if you do need to receive that, and we will send you one if you meet the other 2 requirements. And we do ask if you have questions, we just ask you to put them into the Q&A panel and be specific in those questions. Pete's got a lot of information to cover. He probably won't be able to get to all of the questions, but if we do have time in the end, we're going to try to get to them. So it may be 20 minutes, 30 minutes after you ask the question that he can get to it. So be real specific when you ask a question. We are recording this, and it will be posted to our YouTube channel. Usually takes 2, maybe 3 days with kind of the volume we're going to have from the summit. But we'll also send you the link to our YouTube channel in the follow-up email, as well as a copy of the presentation. There'll be a link for that as well. Once I go dark and turn this over to Pete, I will also put a copy of the presentation in the chat, as well as a copy of our link to our YouTube page will also go in the chat as well. And again, thank you to Pete. They are a sponsor of Future Forward, so we certainly appreciate that support. Appreciate you too, Pete, taking some time just to share what you know about this turnkey back office solutions. It is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pete Audenas, and I'll be presenting Turnkey Back Office Solutions, how building a toolbox, including Microsoft's Power Platform, Azure, and OpenAI can drive your advisory revenue. And my goal when I created this webinar was to pack it with as much information as I possibly could, so that by the end of the webinar, you'll feel like you received a lot of value. So hopefully that'll be the result of this next 50 or so minutes. So again, this is my first webinar. I'm not real familiar with the polling questions and how it works, but here's the first polling question. Which of the following are not part of the Microsoft Power Platform? Power BI, Excel, Access, and Power Pages. Those are your 4 choices.
Yep, and we'll keep that open for about 10 seconds, 10 more seconds just to get your answer in. If you do need CPE, we only have 4 questions total, so you don't want to miss any. We'll leave this open for, again, about 5 or 6 more seconds, and then I will share the results. Go ahead and close it up in 3, 2, and 1. And there's the results. We have 50% roughly said Power Pages, 26 Power BI, 14 Excel, 11% Access. And which one is the correct answer?
The correct answer, which of the following are not part of the Power Platform? Excel and Access are not part of the Power Platform. Power BI and Power Pages are part of the Power Platform. Okay, moving right along. Today's agenda, high-level overview of the Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform. We're going to talk about specifics of how to build new advisory revenue streams using this Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform. And we're going to talk about the Data Heads Toolbox that I've spent close to 4 decades building, and how you can take advantage of the tools that are in that toolbox to provide new, more profitable services to your clients. Who am I? Who's Pete? I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a couple different businesses. Data Head Solutions and is my primary business right now. I'm a degreed accountant. I got my degree from Rutgers in New Jersey. I am not a CPA. I immediately geared toward or went in the direction of accounting software and systems, and realized that tax audit was not really my thing, and data was. So I really became a data head very early on in my career, which has now led me to be able to go out there and represent myself as an outsourced chief data officer to small and medium-sized businesses. And if you learn these tools with my help, you too can perhaps be not only a data head, but a chief data officer for your clients as well. Accounting software junkie since 1985. 1985 was pretty much when the IBM PC first came out, believe it or not. The software that I was asked to help implement was Great Plains for DOS. Great Plains was since Great Plains became Dynamics, and then Dynamics was purchased by Microsoft. So my first accounting software implementation was DOS. So that tells you how old I am. I'm an efficiency expert, always have been. My dad was an industrial engineer, and it's just in my blood. So I'm obsessed with efficiency. Rainmaker to CPA firms, accountants, and bookkeepers. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, that's how it reads. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll see why that's true. And professional problem solver, again, something that I've just, God blessed me with the ability to solve problems. And when it comes to back office business problems, there's probably not one problem that anybody's ever asked me to solve that I either couldn't solve it myself or couldn't find the solution to it, whether it was my solution or somebody else's. So I'm the go-to guy when it comes to back office problems. So evolution of the Data Heads Toolbox. So that's me sitting on the floor with my first tools that were in my toolbox, which was pencil, paper, 14 column pads, and of course a calculator. And if you notice, it's 2 o'clock on the clock there in the back. And you know, I could probably remember back then saying, I can't wait for it to be 5 o'clock because I really don't know if I'm going to come back to work tomorrow, because sitting here on the floor with pencil and paper and 14 column pads is not my idea of what I want to do with the rest of my life. But luckily, literally that same week that I started my first accounting job, the owner of the firm presented me with a bunch of boxes with IBM PC. There was some software in there, and in there was Lotus 123, which of course was one of the first spreadsheets. There were ones before it, but Lotus 123, then from there, spreadsheets. Then I fell in love with databases. I learned about Microsoft Access. Microsoft Access was created to make or allow people like me who knew nothing about programming and didn't want to know anything about programming to be able to actually develop applications. And again, I didn't know anything about anything. Nobody really knew anything about anything back then. So I really had nothing to lose. I read the book 20, 25 times, created an application for a company developed a very complicated commission tracking software system for them, job tracking and commission tracking, which they used for 20 years. So that's where my start was for databases. Databases then turned into data warehousing. So data warehouse is just a bunch of databases. And then ultimately all of this has now led us to cloud computing and the Microsoft Azure platform. So I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of cloud computing technology first. And really, the first, I don't know how many of you know the evolution of the internet, but the internet started with 3 supercomputers way back. I'm not sure if this date is 100% correct, but close enough. Way back, 3 supercomputers in case of nuclear war. Then a browser was created called Mosaic to be able to look at the information that were on these 3 supercomputers. Then we went through the connection phase of dial-ups, cable modems, security, and speed ultimately just continued to increase at a very, very rapid rate to the point now where everything is basically high-speed fiber and wireless. So everybody's connected. And what that has led us to is that, what does this all mean to me and my clients? Everything is in the cloud. So first it was data and getting everybody to get comfortable with putting their data in the cloud. Is my internet going to go down? Is it secure? And of course, we now know that it's probably more secure than anywhere in your physical location. But again, the data, so Google Drive, Dropbox, all of those programs ultimately made people very comfortable with first moving their data up into the cloud. And then ultimately, Microsoft has been working on Azure platform, I think for the last 12 years at least. And ultimately, they have now put all the programs out in the cloud on their platform. So all the data and all the programs are now in the cloud. And for the most part, either they are already connected or they can be connected. So the whole matter of connecting software and software being able to talk to each other, that was so cost prohibitive for so long that many companies just kept doing whatever it is that they were doing, knowing that they could never afford it. The game's completely changed. And really, when did this happen? Probably within the last, I'd say 2 to 3 years, where everybody is just realizing now that A, it's all up there. B, Microsoft is basically the king of the cloud. And again, back office solutions that were once totally cost prohibitive are now remarkably affordable. Solutions costing $50,000 to $100,000 are now $10,000 or less. The development time, and therefore the solutions that you can provide to your clients, is something that you can do in days rather than weeks or months. It's a little mind-boggling, but once you get your head into this and you realize how this all came about, it all makes sense. Second polling question: Microsoft Cloud Computing Platform is called. Four choices: AWS, Azure, Office 365, and Teams.
We'll keep this open for about 5 more seconds. Pretty straightforward here. 5, 4, 3, 2. And if you need those CPE, make sure you answer, and we'll close it out. I believe that 60% is correct, right?
That is correct. Okay, we're going to go through the data heads technology stack. And again, we're not going to drill very deeply into any one of these. I'm going to just make a list of what's in our current technology stack. And I'll go through each one of these in a little bit of detail, but I'm going to go through each one here. Azure Cloud Computing Platform, Power Platform, Power BI, OpenAI, Microsoft 365, which was formerly Office and Office 365. Microsoft continuously changing everything constantly, as we all know. A little frustration there, but now they changed the name again. Azure Data Factory, very important. Azure Virtual Machines and Windows 365 PCs. So that's pretty much what we're going to cover today at a very high level. Oh, last but not least, Windows 11 Copilot. We're going to go through that in a minute. So the data heads toolbox. So a lot of things in the toolbox, and that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to go through each of the ones that I just listed for you. Azure Cloud Computing Platform. Why are these tools in our toolbox, and why should you be aware of it? Well, you know, Microsoft is by far the most dominant player in cloud computing and is fanatical with data security. I do believe that Apple, of course, is the king of user experience, but you know, I'm following Microsoft. I'm following Bill Gates. As I tell people, I drank the Microsoft Kool-Aid. I'm Lithuanian. I'm afraid of Russians, and I believe that Microsoft and Bill Gates and all of his friends are going to be the ones that are going to make sure that the Russians don't hack us to death, because we know they can't fight ground wars. So that's probably the only thing that they can do. Microsoft Power Platform. Even I, about a year or so ago, said, I know about Power BI. Everybody's heard about Power BI, but what is the Power Platform? Well, there's really 5 areas. There's Power BI, again, most popular. Everybody's probably heard of that, or a lot of people have heard of that. Power Pages are websites and data management. Power Automate are tools that you can build, for custom workflow automation. Power Virtual Agents are chatbots that you can build for increasing productivity. Power Apps quickly build professional grade apps. Again, all of these are tools that make it extremely easy for just the average person. You do not have to be a programmer to do a lot of the things that you're going to want to do for your clients, very much like what I did for my client 20 years ago when I built that commission report. They had a problem. I created the solution. I did not write one line of code. That was 20 years ago. So the tools that are being created now make it even easier for people to develop applications. Power BI is a great example of that. So what is Power BI? So a lot of you have probably heard of it, but what exactly is it? And how does it relate to perhaps tools that I may have already used? Well, when Microsoft Access was first developed, I called Access Excel on steroids. So now what I call Power BI, it's Excel and Access on steroids, because they added drag and drop dashboard creation capability. And now they've also added built-in artificial intelligence called Insights. So if you're an Excel user, a Power Excel user, if you know Microsoft Access even a little bit, you already probably know a lot of the tools or a lot of the capabilities that Power BI has. So you might say, well, then if I know Excel and I know Access and those two together, what did Power BI add? Again, drag and drop dashboard creation capability and the built-in insights. The only way to really know how that works is actually to use the program itself. And what does drag and drop dashboard creation actually mean? And it is pretty simple. You pick a couple fields, you have a whole bunch of choices of different dashboards and visualizations. You pick one, you drag it onto your screen, and voila, you've got yourself a dashboard. So getting you into doing that is relatively easy. Doing the dashboard creation is relatively easy. Getting the data ready to be used with Power BI, that's a completely other story. We'll talk about that a little bit further on. Power BI Insights. The Insights feature helps you easily explore and find insights such as anomalies and trends in your data as you interact and consume your reports. The coolest thing about it, and what astonished me, is I was looking at a report, and at the top of the screen, there was a question mark, and I hovered over the question mark and it said Insights. So I clicked on it, and then over on the right-hand side of the screen, I saw all of these different insights. And what they were doing was telling me things like, your current ratio is this, and just doing basic, KPI analysis, making a lot of assumptions, which, AI, that's what it's all about. And I couldn't believe that it was right out of the box without me doing anything. It's going to give me insights, which then you can look at and say, okay, that's not right. Perhaps the data wasn't formatted properly, but it gets you into the whole world of Power BI and insights and how you can use it for your clients and how easy it is to use. OpenAI. So a lot of people, including myself, became very, very interested in finding out what all the buzz was about AI. AI has been around for a long time. Anybody that's had worked in Word, where it changes your, finishes your sentence or anything. I mean, AI is all over the place. We don't even realize it. But when everybody started talking about ChatGPT and making a big deal for political and control reasons and things like that, I really wanted to find out personally, okay, what's ChatGPT? Who created it? Who owns it? Why is everybody freaking out about all this stuff? And so anyway, again, this is all stuff that you can easily find on Google, but I put it all here on one page. So if anybody was wondering, like, who owns OpenAI? So a bunch of investors, including Microsoft and some other people who started it. Elon Musk and some other gentlemen started it as a nonprofit research company. And OpenAI, in fact, is just a research lab. And the big question for today, if I'm a bookkeeper or an accountant, should I be concerned about AI? I think a lot of bookkeepers, accountants are asking that question. My answer would be curious and excited, yes. Concerned. The only reason that you ought to be concerned is if you decide that you don't want to embrace AI. I think it's the next modern miracle as it relates to the world of data management. And it already is and will continue to make every aspect of your business and professional life easier. So who doesn't want that? So I say embrace it, figure out how to use it personally, figure out how to use it for your clients, and everybody wins. And oh, by the way, speaking of ChatGPT, not currently used for financial applications due to accuracy and security. I kind of smiled when I read that and said, makes total sense. It's great for a lot of things, but financial applications, not today, maybe not ever. I don't know. Microsoft 365, formerly Office or Office 365, years ago when Office first came out, was basically what you see on the left: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Publisher. Then later they added Access. Now we have Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange, Intune, Azure Information Protection. But last but not least, and I didn't put it here, what's part of Office, it's not part of the actual, you don't get it when you buy Office, but all of the different apps that connect to Microsoft 365, and also separately all the apps that connect to Teams. There's hundreds of apps. So any application that you could think of has an app connector developed for either Office or Teams or both. Again, going back to what I said earlier, everything is connected pretty much to one another, but pretty much everybody's connected to Office and Teams because they're Microsoft and everybody wants to be part of Microsoft. So we're not going to get into anything related to Office today, except for Microsoft Teams. And I became a Teams preacher pretty much when I first learned about it about 2 years ago. And I don't know about you, and I know we're on Zoom today, but my experience during the pandemic was that people were using Zoom an awful lot. And I remember their stock was going crazy. And I said, okay, after the pandemic, I wonder what everybody's going to use. Is it still going to be Zoom? Well, I don't know if everybody else is having the same experience as I have, but whereas it was way before it was, WebEx, then came Zoom. And now, for the most part, when I do meetings, incoming meetings, of course, I exclusively use Teams, but when people do meetings with me, it's Zoom hardly ever. It's mostly Teams. And a lot of people actually that I talk to, if I say, oh, you use Teams, great. Do you use it for anything other than meetings? And they say, oh, does it do anything else? And of course I laugh and say, yeah, it does a lot more than just doing meetings. So what does it do? What does Teams do? So those of you who might be in the same boat as the other people that I've spoken to in terms of, oh, I thought it was just hosting meetings. As you can see, there's one little host meetings over here. So managing contacts, chat and call, which is instant messaging and calling. A lot of people don't know that you really don't need to have a landline anymore. You can buy a Teams calling plan and do all your calls through Teams, which is what I did. So that's a cost savings to your client right away. They probably don't even know that. And voice over IP, Ring Central, things like that, those are going to be obsolete, I think, over time. Storing and sharing files, to me, it's one of the biggest things for accountants because we share a lot of files. We're emailing files which is not secure. So we don't do it anymore. We simply don't email files to our clients anymore. Everything is stored in a secure location. Everybody's sharing the same version. You don't have different versions of files. All of that nonsense goes away when you start using Teams. And you can manage projects, you can collaborate on documents, you can integrate with all the hundreds of third-party apps. So all communications is done through Teams. Building a Teams culture. So this is becoming more prevalent, definitely in larger organizations, but smaller organizations that have what I'd call the intestinal fortitude to be able to do it are getting into it also. And really, the start of building a Teams culture, to be able to get into it, you have to have someone declare that this is how we're going to communicate and share data, always, no exceptions. Everybody must conform because, like any system, it doesn't work if everybody doesn't comply with the rules. It just doesn't. And most of the clients that I have been working with, prospects, I ask every prospect I talk to, regardless of the reason why I'm talking to them, do you use Teams? How's it going? And no one has even come close to saying something like, oh, it's great. It's changed our lives and we're doing it the way that we're supposed to, and it was set up properly. It's the exact opposite. We hate it, doesn't work, we don't understand it. And the reason is that they probably started working with teams by having a meeting, and then somebody just kind of pulled them into it and said, I'm going to share a file with you through Teams and this and that. And if you don't have it set up properly, if you don't have proper training, if you don't have proper support, everybody's going to be frustrated. And my recommendation is don't even try, because it's not worth it. But if you do want to build a team's culture, the first thing you have to do is assess the current culture. What are the issues? Are you communicating effectively and efficiently? Chances are the answer is no. It's just a question of to what degree. Inefficient data storage. Well, again, from my own personal experience and the clients we've been working with for as long as I've been working with, nobody's doing it the right way, or very few people are doing it the right way, where one file goes in one location always, and that's where it always is for everybody to access, and that's it. You don't email files anymore. It's hard to get to that, but you can do it. Inadequate security. Emailing files is not secure. So again, that might sound crazy, but it's just not secure. So those are usually the three main issues that drive people to say, okay, we're ready, we're going to give it a shot. But then what are the obstacles to radical change? Can it be done? So I remember years ago before I had my own business, I was a controller for a company, and I had a real hard time getting anybody to do anything differently. And I was trying to introduce, it was way back when I was trying to introduce computers and things like that. And so I started reading books on change management and learned a lot about that. And the one thing I learned, and everybody knows this just inherently, change is hard for everybody. But what drives anybody to change their habits? It's usually pain. Somebody just telling them and trying to be proactive and saying you can avoid the pain is great. But usually it's pain that does it. And I know from personal experience that that's what drove us internally to say, okay, we're going to do it differently. And Teams was the solution for us. Develop a vision. How do we want to use Teams to our advantage? Again, I always say this, Microsoft, there's 6 different ways to do everything. So you have to go and read about the 6 different ways how you can do everything, and then decide, okay, which is the best way for me to do this particular task, whether it's a call, whether it's chat, whether it's setting up a channel, whatever it is. How are we going to use this tool? Not how somebody else using it. How does Microsoft maybe want us to use it? But again, Microsoft's giving us 6 choices for everything. So they don't care how we use it. They want us to use it as effectively as we can. And then I think the other key, if it's possible, is to find somebody within the organization that will be the internal Teams champion who is going to drive the change and hold everybody accountable. It's got to be a person. It could be the owner, it could be a manager, but one individual has to be passionate about the concept of this is how we communicate and share data. Always, somebody has to make sure that that happens every single day. That same person needs to master the basics of file sharing, chat, calls, emails, calendar, Teams and channel management. All of that in one sentence. That's Teams. It's sharing files, instant messaging, making phone calls. Emails is actually Outlook, but it's connected to Teams, calendar, and then channel management. That's it. That's what Teams is. And then awareness of availability of Teams apps, and just knowing that in addition to what I just shared there in terms of what Teams is, if you look at the Teams apps page, you'll see that there's just about any application that you've ever heard of is out there to connect by a click of a button. Just go on a page, you press the button, you have to have a license for the software that you're connecting to, gives it permission, and you're connected. There's nothing to it. And we already talked about proper setup, training, and support, but I'll say it again. Without proper setup, training, and support, don't even try it. Azure Data Factory, the secret sauce. So if you look at my website, Datahead Solutions, connecting the data dots is what it says on the homepage. And that's really what it's all about. You know, that's what's changed everything for accountants, because of the fact that all the data, again, is connected. So the Data Factory allows you to do that, connect your data. And I'm not going to get into Azure Data Factory at all today, other than to tell you that there's a link here to go to the Azure Data Factory. You can look there, and you know, your brain might melt a little bit when you start looking at that web page. But if this is something that you're interested in, data connectors, what will really blow your mind is going to CData. CData to me is the Amazon of data connectors. When I first saw their webpage probably 2 years ago, I couldn't believe it. I got on the phone with some of their people. I'm like, wait a minute, what are you guys selling here? And what are you doing? And I was just blown away. So again, take a look at it. And again, if you have any questions about anything that I talk about today, you can just send me an email. But this is something, if you're really into data connections, this is where you want to go and look at it and, you know, get lost. It's just amazing if you're a data head. So what I am going to do is show you quickly an example of how we used the Data Factory to create an app using Power BI. So BI in the Box is a turnkey data management tool for users of QuickBooks Desktop Online. We can actually connect to any accounting software, but we've actually created data connectors using the Data Factory to QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. We could have bought the connectors from CData, but my resident data genius, Tim, said, you know, it's too expensive, and I know what they did, and we can build our own. So we did. So we have our own connector for desktop and online. And again, we can connect to any accounting software. So then you go through what's called ETL, extract, translate, load. Process, that's a buzzword. If you haven't heard of it, you're going to hear more of it down the road. Then you load it into SQL Azure database. We put Power BI in front of it. And from there, you get views, reports, and dashboards. So the beginning of the process, getting it to SQL, that's the hard part. So that's what I call making it Power BI ready. After you make it Power BI ready, just about anybody that knows Power BI, and there are thousands, tens of thousands of people who know Power BI. And once you, again, get your data ready for Power BI, you can have just about anybody create any kind of report, any kind of dashboard. It's the not only the extract, translate, load part of it, it's the cleanliness of the data, the accuracy of the data, which is always the issue. We'll talk about that a little bit further down the road here. I mentioned BI in the Box, connected to multiple data sources, not just QuickBooks Online and Enterprise. So, for example, like a QVinci, which is a great product, we love them, and they connect to Online and Enterprise and can give you all sorts of reports and whatnot. But what BI in the Box is a data warehouse. We just start with connecting to Online and Enterprise, and we can connect to anything else, any other data source that you have. And these are just examples of some of them. So to get to BI in the Box, we created a web portal. And this is a screenshot of the web portal. This is something that, if you're interested, all the participants in today's webinar can gain access to. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the very end. But this is the portal. And then in the portal, you see Power BI demo workbook. You click on that. that opens up the Power BI demo, the BI in the box demo. Getting back to the Data Heads toolbox, Azure virtual machines. So a VM, people have probably heard of a VM. It's a virtual machine. It's not a physical PC. It's a virtual machine in the cloud. And if you have multiple virtual machines, that would be called a virtual network. So the simplest way to think about it is it's very similar to what you probably, I'm sure you've seen and may still have in your offices, regular PCs connected by Cat5 network cable. It's the same thing in the cloud. And the reason that everybody's going in that direction, like when anybody asks us to buy a PC, first question we say is why? What do you need a PC, a physical PC for? And then we explain to them what an Azure virtual machine is, and explain to them what a cloud PC is, which I'm going to get to in a minute. And they say, oh, in that case, then we're not going to buy any physical machines. So benefits of a virtual machine, they're more secure, they're simpler, they're faster, they're cheaper. There's no maintenance, virtually no maintenance, automatic upgrades to operating systems, and accessible from anywhere that has internet. There's no physical hardware, except you need a device to launch your browser, which you can use a phone, a tablet, or a laptop to do that. So that's what a virtual machine is. Different than a virtual machine is what's called Windows 365 PC, which is a cloud PC. And whereas virtual machines are designed to be part of virtual networks and managed as a network, a 365 PC is something that an individual typically would get instead of buying a PC. It's just getting your own PC in the cloud. Same benefits. And then here at the bottom, what is the difference between a virtual machine and the cloud PC? One is a shared server. So a server, one big server in a data center that is having multiple users connect to it, versus a cloud PC, which is just your one PC, and it's separate, it's yours, and you're not sharing anything with anybody. And some of you might be asking, well, how much do these cost? Cloud PC, I think right now, for a powerful machine, I believe is close to, let's say, $60 a month. And a virtual machine in a virtual network, depending on what type of license you buy and what type of license you may already have, you can get to a cost of about $60 or $75 a month. Sometimes it's lower, but in that range. So you can see how much you're paying for a PC on an annual basis versus buying a PC. But then again, it's not just the cost, it's all the aggravation that you're eliminating by having it all in the cloud. Okay, so I wanted to look at so I got lucky, coincidentally or not, depending how spiritual you are, which I am. I think so. Today, Microsoft is announcing the launch of the new version of Windows 11, which has built-in AI, which they call Copilot. And it's pretty cool. And I want to share a 2-minute video. And I don't think it's working. It's not, because this is Zoom. That's too bad. Okay. Well, those of you who I'll be responding and following up with all of you anyway. I'll send you the link there, but just Google Windows 11 Copilot. Really cool video. It's 2 minutes. It'll explain to you what it does, and I think you'll be amazed. Even me, I was actually it was without warning. I didn't know that Microsoft was going to launch this and that they were actually going to build AI into their operating system. So that is the end of talking about the technology stack and the toolbox. So now I'd like to get into how we can help each other take advantage of these tools and make money together. How do we do that? Well, the first step would be to join the DataHeads Partner Network. If you're interested in doing that, you can send me an email. Everybody that is participating in today's webinar that sends me an email will receive a login to the QuickBoard demo that you saw briefly, which has that link to BI in the Box, which is powered by Power BI. And that has a ready to go connection to a QuickBooks Enterprise sample company. For the first 10 participants who reach out to me, I will give you a free connection to a QuickBooks desktop file that you provide. So instead of the sample file, you can send me one of your clients' files if they give you permission to do that. It doesn't matter. I don't really care where the file comes from, but this way you could see relevant data. You'll be able to look at BI in the Box. You'll be able to test drive BI in the Box. You'll be able to play with the insights part of BI, of Power BI. And included in this offer for the first 10 participants is 1 hour of training. So I'll spend an hour with you. I'll answer any questions that you have in general, but specifically the idea would be to show you Power BI and show you how the insights part of Power BI works, if that's what you're interested in, but it's not limited to that. And then the third way that we could start working together is to start thinking about becoming a proactive DataHead solutions architect. And what would be the low-hanging fruit as it relates to that? First and foremost, and this is something that I find is prevalent in every client that I work with, is the overuse of Excel for data management. So Excel should be used for, instead of a calculator, really. If you want to do heavy duty analysis in Excel, sure, that's great. But what I'm trying to say is that there are clients that we've worked with, for example, that we replaced what they were doing with BI in the Box. We have clients, and this is not just once, and maybe you've heard this story before, every month they export reports from QuickBooks to Excel and create their own little mini database in Excel using VLOOKUPs and pivot tables. And ultimately you have like 18 to 50 different tabs on the Excel spreadsheet. And that's just dangerous, let alone, again, mind melting. I can't do that anymore. I can't look at spreadsheets like that with all those tabs anymore. And there's just no reason for that, to do it that way anymore. And again, typically what you hear is, why do we do it that way? We don't know any better. Well, we do. We know better, and now you know better. And the more you work with us, the more you'll know better, and you'll be able to tell your clients, wait a minute, there's a better way. There's always a better way. You know, best practices is a live thing. It's something that evolves over time. Now with AI, it's a brand new ball game in terms of best practices. I think down the road, it's going to be best practices pre-AI, post-AI. It's going to change the definition of what best practices are. You got to kind of start over again almost. Second low-hanging fruit, eliminating using email as a filing cabinet and start using SharePoint, Teams, or OneDrive, which more or less are all the same. It's all SharePoint, and then Teams just kind of points to SharePoint. I don't want to get into that right now. and confuse people. But it's really, again, I don't know anybody that doesn't use their email as a filing cabinet. It's not secure. And you start that process, again, going back to the Teams culture, don't email files anymore. Just put them in Teams and share them. So that's one way to eliminate using email as a filing cabinet. Eliminate the use of emails for routine communications. Again, we talked about that. Use Teams. Eliminate the production of reports that no one reads. Perform a reports inventory. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Assess your client's data. What level of accuracy do they want, need, and how clean is their data currently? And I've had this discussion with my clients and with other people that we work with about the 3 levels of data accuracy that I am familiar with. There's data accuracy that's good for tax return purposes. There's data accuracy that's good for an audit, any flavor, compilation, review, or certified. And then there's what I call due diligence ready or intelligence ready data. So tax return data, I think we all know, you do the best you can. The IRS pretty much is going to accept whatever you send them. Do it as good a job as you possibly can, and you're good to go. In an audit, compilation, review, and certified, again, those are 3 different levels of accuracy in theory. But even a certified audit, and I can tell you stories about certified audits that I've been involved with after the fact, looked at them where they messed up. And they messed up because the client didn't provide them the correct information. So ultimately, in the situations that's happened, do they restate the numbers? Does anybody get too upset about it? For smaller companies, it's usually not a big deal. So, but then where it is a big deal is when you get into due diligence and intelligence. And what I'm finding and have been finding for the last 3-4 years is everybody is talking about dashboards, and I want dashboards, and I want insights, and I want intelligence. You don't get any of that unless your data is accurate. And what I mean by accurate is transaction level accurate. So going in and doing journal entries to correct your data, it's good for a tax return. It's good for a financial statement. It's not good for intelligence, because when you start looking at dashboards and you're drilling down and you're making mission critical decisions on the insights that the reports and whatever else that you're looking at are giving you, you have to have hyper accurate information, which means that it has to be correct down to the transaction level. So QuickBooks, I don't remember when they did it, but I thought it was great when they created those accountant tools in QuickBooks. And I could tell you that I don't sit and look and do reclassify transactions that much anymore. I have other people that do that, but I have sat down in situations where it was required, where I use the reclassified transactions functionality in QuickBooks and spent a couple of days taking everything for 10 years of data and moving it into the accounts in order for the information to be golden across the 10 or 12 years that we were looking at. So it can be done. And what I'm talking about is data cleansing at the transaction level. You just have to be trained to do it. But there's a big, big opportunity for data cleansing. So, and the people that are technology, that know technology, they know how to create the reports, and they know Power BI, they know all of that. They don't know the data. They don't know how to clean the data. That's where bookkeepers, accountants, that's where the opportunity is for you. Beyond that, beyond the low-hanging fruit, there's more advanced solutions that you can provide your clients. Back office best practices, consulting and execution, turnkey back office management and execution, and becoming an outsourced chief data officer for your clients. The back office and management information system starts off with doing an analysis. So you're analyzing the entire back office of the company, and not just the accounting department, the entire back office. The back office supports the entire organization. Everybody in the organization uses technology. So you're the guy or the girl going to go in there and you're going to talk to them about the people, the process, and technology that make up their back office. And specifically, you're looking at their transaction processing, bookkeeping, accounting, and management information systems. And we have a process for that, which we can share with you and teach you how we do this. We're in the process of automating this assessment, make it easier for us, make it easier for the client. And again, we could talk to you more about that down the road. Once you do the assessment, then you're in a position to make recommendations on best practices. So what we do after the assessment, we ask the client to give themselves a report card on their back office best practices. The reports inventory is probably one of the most interesting parts of the assessment. Make a list of all your reports, who's getting them, why are they getting them, how are they getting them, and it's amazing what you'll learn, because I know, again, from personal experience, when I was a controller of a company 35 years or so ago, I spent a lot of time creating reports, and I knew that most of management really never took the time to look at it. I think a lot of us are familiar with situations where we spend time creating financials for our clients, and we send it to them, and either they don't look at them or they look at the bottom line and say, okay, I made money, I lost money, and that's it. So anyway, best practices are constantly evolving and will continue to do so with the onset of AI. Chief Data Officer. So one source of truth, first time I heard it, I loved it. It's overused. Everybody's using it now. Teams actually uses this in their literature. And what does it mean? It really just means that all your information is in one place. But to make it truthful, it has to be accurate. It has to be complete. In addition, it has to be secure. It has to be timely. It has to be useful. It has to be efficiently produced. And if you really think about it, and even though Chief Data Officer might sound like, well, I can't do that, I can't sell that to my client. Well, if you tell them that this is what my responsibilities are going to be, then maybe you can sell them on it, because this is not that hard to do, especially if you have somebody like us to help you do it. So, closing thoughts. Go beyond bookkeeping, accounting, and tax. Don't worry about artificial intelligence making you expendable. Leverage the trust your clients already have in you to deliver accurate analytics and improve efficiency. Think like an owner and a business manager, not an outside accountant. I can't tell you what a difference just that will make. Even if you are their outside accountant, that's okay. Think like they would think. You know, when I first moved to Chicago, the company that I was working for, I was here as a consultant. I didn't even have the job yet. And the company was in trouble. Luckily, the owner was very wealthy. He came in and handed me a check for $1 million, said, put this in the bank account, treat this like it's your money. And I was in my early 20s. I looked at him and I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. So that's what owners and business managers expect you to do if you want to be more than their accountant. And once they see that you are interested in their business more than just being an accountant, then you'll be able to help them with all the different things that we've been talking about today. Dream and proactively search for ways to improve your client's entire back office operation, knowing that Pete and DataHead Solutions are here to support you from pre-sales to delivery and beyond. Never say we can't do it. because chances are we can. I've never told a client or prospect in my life, I'm sorry, I can't do that. If I can't do it, I leave and I say, holy crap, how am I going to do this? Somehow I always figure it out. You will too, especially if you have somebody like us to help you. We'll educate and train you to use the tools we've created. Or you might say, you know what? Love your support, love your education and training, all for it. Don't have time. Client has a problem, needs a solution. We'll just do it all for you and pay you a referral fee, commission, whatever the case may be. And then final word. If you like what you heard today and are interested in more in joining the partner network, send me an email explaining your interest. I'm looking for ambitious QuickBooks Pro advisors who care about data quality, truly care about data quality, and will educate, train, and support you in one of two roles right off the bat: data head solutions architect or a data cleanup expert. And I'll reach out to you personally to talk about the current opportunities that we have. Thank you. Last polling question.
Pete, I'm actually going to bounce over to the CPE poll because we are running a little long, and I know people.
I'm sorry.
Yep, that's right. So I know people need to let us know if they need this CPE certificate, and then we will wrap it up. But while they do that, certainly thank you. That is a lot of great information, and just as you were talking, I'm like, just so many opportunities out there in your world that for the accounting professionals in serving their clients. It's just in teams alone, right? Just thinking about that stack and how to manage it within a business, because we use it and don't use it nearly to its capability. I know, and because it's not what we do, right? So, but all right, let's if you need the CPE, this would be the third polling question. So go ahead and click yes or no. I guess you would click yes if you need the CPE, because this was how we know to send you the certificate. So again, Pete, thank you so much for taking some time today. Thank you all who joined us for taking some time. Hopefully we'll see you in 30 minutes at the next Future Forward session. There, I did put in the chat earlier. Murph wanted me to shout out that he did. We released his QB Desktop 2024 kind of overview. It's in Insightful Accountant Live today, and then we also have a QB Talks on that on next I think it's October the 4th, which is next Wednesday. And then last thing, if you do go to or visit insightfulaccountant.com, if you're having issues getting on the site, clear your cache, close out the browser, open a new browser, and you should be able to get in. We made a tweak to the site that seems to have gotten hung up in people's cache, and so some people are not able to get to the site. So again, Pete, thank you so much. Everybody who attended, thank you. We will see you all very soon.
Thank you all.